All right. So today we're going to speak about why I struggle with accountability and why you might also struggle with accountability, and maybe you might struggle with accountability for the same reasons that I do. But first, need to kind of understand what this weird entity called accountability is. Accountability, discipline, responsibility, they're all like part of the same family, like these big words that people use. You got to be accountable, bro. You got to own up to your actions. You got to be disciplined. You got to lock in. You got to grind. All that bullshit. So, we hear it a lot. We hear it so much, but like hearing it, we kind of all think we have a decent idea of what it is, and I do believe that we all probably have an idea of what it is. But I think knowing what something is and knowing what it looks like in action is so different. And I think that's maybe even what kept me from being unaccounted. You can correct me there. That's what kept me from not being able to account for my actions and the things that I do and the wrong things that I do. Now I've got like three main things that I want to speak about today that I think are part of why I have self-inflicted so much misery on my life the past 22 years. We're first going to speak about how I lie to myself, the fear of the shame of the failure, the fear of shame of failure, and complacency. And I think those three things are together. They make a beautiful catalyst that makes you struggle with accountability, that makes you lie to yourself so you don't even realize that you're not being accountable, and then you never truly move forward in life, and you kind of just regress. It's just like a constant, So, first of all, what even is this weird entity of called accountability? I don't know. I don't really have a strict definition. I don't know. I think we all kind of know what it is, so I'm not really gonna dabble too much on it. I don't really have like any Webster's dictionary definition, but what I do, or what I am gonna say, is that let's think about an accountant. Accountability and accountant. Look. So we're gonna think about an accountant, and we're gonna simplify the role a lot, and that will kind of give us a base point to build this analogy and everything else that we're gonna talk about from. So if we think about an accountant, what is their role in a company? So they have to know about the tax laws, they have to keep the books in order, they have to make sure that that you're paying, that the creditors are paying, the debtors, all of that stuff. I don't know, if you did accounting, you should comment in the comments what an accountant's role is about. But today, an accountant's role is about keeping the books of a company looking good. Looking good. That's it. That's what an accountant does today. And essentially, if we even simplify it even further, we're going to simplify it and we're going to say an accountant's job, or his role, or his job, whatever, let's say his job, is to keep a promise. He promises the business or the organization that he is going to keep the books looking a certain way. That is an accountant's job. And him or her keeping that promise and having the books look that way is him being accountable as an accountant. Now you see a nice little wordplay I got there going on. Anyway, so that's it. I think that's it. If I'm being honest, I truly think that's what. So yeah, let's just, that's it. That's what accountability is for today. Not being able to keep a promise. If you can think of it like that, I think it makes everything seem so much easier, So to take it even further, if this accountant was unable to keep his or her promise that he had made to the organization to deliver certain deliverables at the end of the year, to catch certain bad people, tax evaders, let's say. He said he was gonna catch 5, and maybe he didn't catch 5, and he let them slide. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Whatever. It doesn't matter. But he said he was gonna do it. He didn't do it, and then that's the point that we're speaking about. And him not being able to do it after he said him not following his obligation to report tax fraud is him not being accountable. So same goes for me. Me not following my promise that I made to myself that I am not going to eat a go-slow is me not being accountable, because I told myself I'm not going to eat a go-slow. I told myself I'm going to go to the gym. I told myself I need to lock in on this thing. I need to start working on this, that, or whatever the case is. I told myself I'm going to stop doing this thing that hurts me and hurts the people around me, you know, and I keep doing it. And obviously then I'm not being accountable, you know. But the reason why I think I say that I lie to myself to kind of evade this accountability matrix is because I would say, yeah, I'm not gonna eat a go slow, guys. Yeah, I'm not gonna, but I would never really mean it, you know? Like, for the past 2 years when I said, 2 years prior, every time when I said I'm done eating go slows, I never meant it. I promise you, I never meant it. I was just saying to appease the shame inside of me for doing something that I know is wrong, you know? Like you come home late, you didn't tell your girlfriend you're coming home late, you know, she's mad at you. You're gonna say sorry just to appease her for being mad. You might not even mean it, you know? And until you truly mean it, until you go through some sort of transformation or self-reflection or something that makes you actually mean it when you say these things, you're never gonna really mean it, and then you're never gonna really truly be accountable, because you can only be accountable for the things that you care about. Because the accountant, at the end of the day, he gets paid to report these people that are not paying tax. Yeah? So he cares about that shit, right? Because that's his livelihood. He cares. He genuinely cares. He's obligated. He genuinely feels obligated. You and I do not feel obligated to stop whatever activity that it is that we are doing at night that makes us ashamed. Nah, we do not. So we just keep lying ourselves. We're like, no, I'm gonna stop. No, I'm gonna stop. No, I'm gonna stop. No, you're not. No, you're not. You don't really mean it. You never really meant it. I never really meant it every time I said I'm gonna stop eating ghosts. I only meant it when I truly said it, and I had to have a reason to make me mean it, and that was like the 75 hard that I'm doing. It allowed me to have a valid reason that made me stop eating go slows, you know, because I was like, well, if I'm in a 75 hard, I can't be eating go slows, bro, you know, it defeats the whole purpose. And I've gone like 2 months now, I'm go slow free. I'm so proud of myself. But I mean, I kind of know, and it's so dirty. I don't want to eat go slows anymore. I think I'm done. I'm not gonna say I'm done for life, but I'm done with the overindulgence of go slows. And then I'm done with the whole not being able to control myself and be a go slow manager. I'm done. Yeah. So on to the next part. The next part of this equation is the fear of facing the shame of failure. For me, at least, this is what I think is responsible for my lack of accountability. The fear of facing the shame that I have failed to keep the promise that I said I was going to do, to do the thing that I said I was going to do. Whatever that thing was, whatever it could have been, we'll go back to the go slow. So I couldn't do it, you know. No, let's go back to the account. Let's go back to the account. I think it's the better one. It's the better one. Will come back to me. So the accountant promised to catch certain people that are evading tax, and October comes and he hasn't caught anyone. I don't know if that stuff is done in October, where they kind of like review and then like they like want everyone's taxes and stuff like that, but I don't know. You will correct me if you know. But let's just say, for argument's sake, October comes and he comes up with naught. For whatever the reason is, he couldn't keep his promise at the end of the day, because his job is that. He's promised to do that, but he couldn't do it. Whether it's his fault, It's not his fault. He couldn't do it. And obviously he's gonna feel some sort of shame, some sort of degradation to his pride and name, that he couldn't do it, that he didn't do it, that he failed at the thing that he had set out to achieve. And he failed, regardless of the fact that it could have been because they had a loophole and they were actually wrong, but they were right because they had this loophole. If you failed, you failed, and you need to just take accountability for that. You just need to just like, you know, just take it on the chin, and that's it. That's the fact. You just failed, you know. And it is that fear of admitting that failure that's what I think keeps me away from being as accountable as I'd like to be. You know, it's a bit better now, but like, I'm just speaking from like my past experiences at least. You know, the fear of the shame of having tried, you know. I don't know how many of you kind of understand this point of view, but for me it would be things that would keep me lying to myself so that I don't have to feel the shame, you know. If the accountant keeps lying to himself and he keeps saying, I only want to catch 2 guys this year, I'm not going to go for 5, knowing because he's afraid that he's going to fail to catch 5 tax evaders, yeah, that's just him lying to himself to protect himself from the truth of the matter that he actually did fail, you know. So now I lie to myself and I'm like, nah, I actually just meant to catch 2, actually, guys, you know. And at the end of the day, whether you catch 1, 2, 10, you know, whether you don't catch any of them, at the end of the day, it's your fault. You catching them is your fault. You not catching those tax evading criminals is also your fault. And I think that is something that's the core principle of today. The whole idea of that it is your fault, whatever it is. If it goes positive, we often want it to be our fault, but when it goes negative, we often don't want it to be our fault. If you come late somewhere, you're always in a rush to be like, yeah, sorry, I'm late, I had to. Sorry, I'm late. That's it. You were late, that's it, dog. You were just late, that's it. Sorry, I'm late. You just didn't care about the people's time that you were supposed to go to, and that's it. Because if you truly cared, you would make preparations to make sure that you are not there. If you're going for a job interview, you are not going to come like 5 minutes before. You cannot do that. You know, you can't do that. You shouldn't. I don't know if you can, but you probably shouldn't. I don't think you can. I think you'd probably not get the job, you know. But anyway, and the last one, complacency, being complacent. Now, this isn't as related to the whole idea of being accountable as it is related to the idea of what has kept me okay with not being accountable, being complacent in the position that I was in, being complacent in the fact that I'm gonna have a coleslaw after every meal, you know, being complacent in the fact that, like, you know, my people just know I'm always gonna be late, and it's okay. They know that, they already know now, you know. But that complacency it's not good. First of all, it breeds resentment, so it's never good, you know. If you get complacent with the fact that your girl always forgives you for you not communicating properly and you disappearing longer than you said you were, you know, eventually that just ends up building resentment on her part. She might end up start hating your friends because she feels like your friends take you away, when actually, in actual factuality, you just got okay with the fact that she's gonna get mad at you and she's gonna forgive you, and that you just got okay with the fact that you're gonna get her angry, you know. So even in that, being complacent with the way that you are, even though you're not happy with it, but you're okay with it because at least if I don't try, I'm not gonna fail. If I don't try, go to the gym and change how I look, I'm not gonna fail. So I'm just gonna stay looking like this. I'm just gonna stay being this way because it's easier than going out to go try and fail, you know, and that's what that complacency does. It just keeps you kind of stuck in the rut of not chasing more tax evaders. That's all I have for you today. Like, if you like the video, subscribe, just because I said so, because we're trying to get to 100 subscribers so that I can do something fun. I don't know if you noticed there's a mic behind me. I'm gonna use a mic soon, and then we're gonna have really good sound quality, and then we're gonna try doing new types of videos, some new aesthetic kind of things. Comment if you have anything to say. Thank you.